My entitled mother mocks me for several years, claiming that I ruined a Christmas Eve dinner all because I had an allergic reaction to walnuts that nobody knew about. And despite throwing up severely, my mom still didn't believe me and claimed that I was just being a picky eater. And to this day, I still have not forgiven her. Here's what happened. So this happened when I was 12 years old. The two main characters other than me are my snobby aunt, who's not really related to me by the name of Janice, as well as my entitled mother. So for Christmas Eve, we usually spend dinner at Janice's house. There is a bathroom connected to the dining room on the first floor, and this year the dinner was actually in the dining room and not on the attached covered porch like it normally was. Janice doesn't believe in kid food, and her children didn't even have a TV dinner until they went to college, so this event always had homemade everything, and this particular dinner was one of the worst events of my life growing up because I have some serious food allergies, a lot of them at that. Everyone just called me a picky eater at the time, and they still do to an extent, but a lot of people outside my family have suspected that I have some form of diagnosis waiting for me that my family just never wanted to check for. This particular year, I was 12 years old, and since I had again not eaten more than some bread, everyone was trying to get me to eat something, even though we were about a 5-minute walk away from home. So finally, someone brings over a plate of chocolate chip cookies and tells me to just eat something. I kid you not, it's been over a decade, and I still remember these cookies. I probably ate close to 10 of them. They're definitely the best cookies I've ever had in my life. But after eating them, my mouth feels kind of tingly, and I start feeling very, very sick. Like really sick. I can't remember if someone was in the bathroom by the dining room or if I knew I was gonna throw up, but I remember excusing myself from dinner to go up to the upstairs bathroom that was more over the kitchen and further away from where the food was. When I went in the bathroom, my lips were swollen, my tongue was swollen, and I couldn't stop puking or crying. Eventually, my entitled mother came up after a while just to scold me, and again, she was calling me a picky eater for what I ate. She started screaming at me, "Come on, they're just walnuts," as if I honestly was making myself puke that bad, as well as lying to her about my lip and tongue swelling up because of the walnuts. I mean, what kid would make that up? She gets mad and we leave because apparently to her, I ruined the party. Then after walking home, I'm still gagging and crying, so she angrily gets me in the car and yells at me until the first stoplight. I'm not puking. I was too scared to keep crying, so she just turned around and went home. Fast forward to 7 years later and I get an allergy test for something completely unrelated, and I ask for a copy of my results after the doctor hands me an EpiPen before I was even allowed to leave the office. And it was right then in that very moment that I discovered that I am deathly allergic to tree nuts. But still to this day, despite all that, I wonder how entitled my aunt and mom had to be just to remind me every year how I ruined that one particular dinner, how I was crying about my swollen mouth and my swollen tongue, as well as my throat burning, and to the fact that they genuinely believed that I was just being such a brat that I was forcing myself to puke over cookies. But even to this day, those cookies still were probably the best cookies I've ever eaten in my life. Your mom is an absolute terrible person. I mean, what in the world was she thinking? Those are such clear signs that you're having an allergic reaction. Your lips were swelling up, you were throwing up, your tongue was swelling up, your throat was burning. I mean, how does she not recognize that that's an obvious sign that this could have been fatal? I'm honestly just really glad nothing bad happened from this, but it's so unbelievably toxic for your family to hold this over your head, especially when all of this happened when you were just a kid. I mean, at the time you were 12 years old. I mean, what 12-year-old is honestly going to make themselves throw up just because they don't like the chocolate chip cookies? I really don't think a fully functioning 12-year-old would ever do that. Not to mention the fact that you've never had a history of doing that, I'm assuming. So your mom literally just held this over your head for years for absolutely nothing. So hopefully at least you can have some kind of conversation with her and let her know that the way she treated you was not okay. Because you shouldn't have grown up feeling ashamed of having that allergic reaction, because it honestly was not your fault. And if anything, it's just further proof that your mom is terrible and she clearly was not very good at raising her child. My entitled mom has been incredibly intrusive about my family and the things going on, and no matter what, she's always sticking her nose in our business, and I honestly don't know what to do. So I have always had a difficult relationship with my parents. I've had periods of no contact with them. In 2019, my mom ended up in ICU and almost passed away. She's had major medical issues since then and will continue to have them. I've been doing my best to be a part of their life since 2019. We live within driving distance, but it's a couple of hours away. Mostly, I email my dad and I talk to my mom on the phone once a week. About 2 weeks ago, my mom got upset with me for not giving her more details about my family's activities. I was driving and talking to her, and she started asking for details about a 50K that my husband was running. But here's the thing, I honestly didn't have the details. I knew the race was coming up, but he and I had made plans to sit down and discuss the details after his packet pickup. He is active duty in the military and he works long hours. We also have 2 teen girls. I love my husband and my kids so much, and I do everything I can to keep the household running smoothly and to keep track of everything going on. But I have health issues, and I do my best, but I can only handle so much at once. Hence why I don't know the details of the $50K right away. It's honestly not my business until I need to know about it. Anyway, my mom felt that I lied to her about not knowing the $50K details. She went online and looked up the race and threw it in my face that she could find the information, as well as implying that I'm just a terrible wife for not knowing what kind of race my husband was running in. She wanted me to know that she figured out what the race was, where it was, as well as a look at the course map, even though she had no intention of being at the race to cheer him on. And you know what? My mom does this kind of stuff all the time. She uses the internet to get information if she feels like I'm not giving her all the information she wants. She'll look up the kids' school calendars. She will search for information on a company that I work for. She will research the kids' school, etc. She'll do it because she says she wants the information just so she can have some kind of conversation and that she feels irrelevant in our lives. I told her I was uncomfortable with the internet searches and the intrusions, and I asked her to please stop. I told her if she wants to make conversation, then she should just talk to us and respect us if there are things that people don't want to share. She says there is nothing wrong with what she is doing. She and my dad say that anything they do is out of love, and to view it negatively is unfair to them. She got mad at me and had my dad email me. Without ever even talking to me about my side of the story, he sends me an email saying I'm ungrateful for all she did as a mom and that I lied to her for no reason. After I called my sister, hysterically crying about how I just can't take the drama anymore, as well as the blame, my mom is now saying that I didn't lie, but my dad didn't do anything wrong. She then says that I need to stop fighting with them and apologize about the situation. This whole thing is exhausting, and it's a repeating pattern that just keeps happening. I asked them for time and space to get over this, and honestly, with all things considered, I just don't know what to do. The way this person's parents are acting is really intrusive, and if anything, is just manipulative and bullying. The way she's using her health as kind of like emotional blackmail, just so you can accept her garbage, is really unfair. I mean, I feel for her situation. Her health is deteriorating, and she wants to make sure that she's involved in her kids' lives, I guess. But the way she's going about doing it is really intrusive and unacceptable. She needs to find better ways to make conversation, basically. Because looking up addresses for your kid's school and stuff like that, as well as stuff involving a race that's coming up, all because she thinks you're trying to hide information, is just weird. So honestly, I think setting boundaries is really a good thing in this situation, because the way she's acting is very unusual, and it's absolutely unacceptable. I am not sure if I should or can stay friends with my best friend due to how he's changed, and I honestly don't know what to do. I've known this guy for 8 years now. It's the longest lasting friendship that I've ever had, and I feel like for that fact alone, I'd be very reluctant to end this friendship. However, I can no longer ignore the fact that he has changed in a way that I find negative, and sometimes he makes me cringe incredibly badly. Basically, he had a change that's been slowly ongoing for years. He got into a really specific scene and community that I do not like or understand, but I was willing to just ignore it because you don't necessarily need to share everything. It has become harder to ignore though, since it seems to be pretty much overtaking his life. Nowadays, in my opinion, we have a huge maturity gap between us, which to some degree was always there, but it's like he has become even more immature and childlike. We are in different stages in life, and it gets a bit tiring to be completely honest. And recently, he invited me to something together with a few of his friends that he knows from that community, and I found them all pretty weird, but I was friendly and polite the whole evening to them. I didn't act rude or anything like that, but my friend acted in a different way around them than he does when it's just the two of us, and it was just a strange, off-putting behavior to me. I am pretty sure that if I met him nowadays as a new person and he acted like that, I would not even consider being friends with him. I had always hoped that maybe his obsession with that community and the immaturity was just a phase, that he would eventually end it, but now the both of us are closing in on 30, and he's still like that, and I really don't think it's normal anymore. But on the other hand, I feel some kind of loyalty towards him, and I really do have memories of the fun times that we've had. I also don't want to be overly judgy as long as it doesn't concern me, but like I said, it's becoming hard to ignore because he is so open about it, and it's clearly his biggest priority. I've already decided that I have no interest in meeting with him again if any of his other friends that I don't like are around as well. If it's just the two of us, then I think it can be fine. But even then, sometimes he says stuff that makes me cringe, or talks about stuff from his community when we are in public that I just feel embarrassed about in the moment. He also sometimes, but not always, neglects his hygiene, and it can be very, very gross. I don't know. I just wonder what to do with this this friendship, since I don't really feel the want to cut contact or anything like that, but he shows behavior that really is weirding me out. I think maybe I'm just not fully registering that he's not the same person that I met 8 years ago. He has also made comments in the past indicating he's perhaps noticed that I've been a bit more distant, and I'm at a crossroads now and I'm honestly not sure what to do. This is a tricky one because, I mean, this happens to probably anybody. Friends can drift apart and find other interests and other people to hang out with. I mean, that really is normal, but it really is especially hard when it's someone that you've known for 8 years. I mean, you clearly have a lot of history with this person, so I can understand your apprehension about saying, oh man, I can't just cut him off like that. Like that all of a sudden would be really hard to handle, especially when you've been friends that long. I think maybe just taking a step backwards and looking at where things are going and maybe discussing that with him would really do both of you some good. You could maybe even explain to him that the way things are going right now is kind of freaking you out and you're worried that your friendship is about to fall apart. Maybe express your concerns about the community that he's a part of and explain to him that he's kind of changed in some ways and that you're concerned about the friendship. If he is one of those friends where you can talk about that stuff openly, then maybe having that conversation would be a good thing. But that honestly all depends on what kind of friend he is in the first place. So hopefully if you decide to have that conversation, it goes well, because you've been friends with this person for 8 years, and for obvious reasons, you want to try and make this work. And hopefully for the sake of both of you, it does work out in the end. My wife is freaking out because my parents helped out and cleaned our house while we were away. And unless my parents apologize to her for invading her privacy, my wife is threatening to file for a divorce. And I honestly don't know what to do. So we've been married for 14 years. My wife, my kids, and I were away for a weekend. We had previously agreed that my parents could stay the Friday night as they had a flight Saturday afternoon leaving from the nearby airport. My parents live a few hours away from a local airport, so this is just an easy solution for them. Now, we left Friday for our trip, and a few hours later, we remembered my parents were coming to stay. Both of us had completely forgotten, and we had left our house in a fairly standard level of non-cleanliness. We typically spend time cleaning and making it at least presentable before visitors come over. We realized this and spoke to my parents and apologized for the mess. They said no big deal and left the next day for their trip. We returned from our weekend away to folded laundry on everyone's bed, as well as cleaned and scrubbed bathrooms. The main problem was my mom decided to leave notes for everyone, the kids, my wife, and myself, with our laundry. These notes essentially said, "I can tell it's been busy. Here's your laundry. Love you." The kids' notes also reminded them that they needed to help and keep their own bathroom clean. My wife is very sensitive to people in our master bedroom. She always has been. So when she saw the note and the clean laundry, it completely set her off. It has been a month since this incident, and she is now threatening divorce unless I talk to my parents and get them to apologize for cleaning our house. I get it. They shouldn't have done it. I've always been subscribed to the forgive and forget method, but it's just not working here. I told my parents my wife was upset, but that was about it. And to be completely honest, I think my wife is being way too overly upset, and I just want to move on from this. But it seems to be the end of our marriage unless I tell my parents that they are apparently terrible people for doing our laundry and scrubbing our toilets, on top of them leaving us notes. I feel like I'm the one always apologizing, and there's always something that is my fault that I need to change about myself, and I'm honestly tired of it. Part of me thinks she is making such a big deal over this because I finally said no, it's not a big deal, and that I disagreed with her. This is all so frustrating and seems like it's completely blown out of proportion, and I honestly don't know what to do. This definitely seems like this is a big problem for the wife and not for anybody else. I mean, she wants to get divorced all because your parents cleaned your house. Like, what is going on? Like, this is seriously over dramatic. The fact that divorce is even brought to the table in any way, shape, or form is absolutely unacceptable in this situation, in my opinion. It just seems like it went from 1 to 100 really fast. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's kind of the original poster and the wife's problem for not cleaning up before they were gonna visit to go to the airport. And you know what? I bet those parents were just doing it to try and be nice. I know my parents have done that for me in the past, where they've stepped in and cleaned when I really did not expect or ask them to clean up anything of mine. So in my opinion, the way your wife is acting is just crazy, and there's no reason to freak out like this. I think you can still ask your parents to apologize just to try and find some kind of middle ground, but if your wife is seriously that unreasonable, at least you can know that the problem is most definitely not with you, and instead is 100% on her. Because based on what you've described, your parents really didn't do anything wrong, and it seems like she's freaking out over something incredibly small. Today, I messed up by listening to my wife's phone call recordings and find out that she's been spilling my family problems to her friends at work, and I honestly now hate her for it, and I don't know what to do. My wife has no filters and overshares all the time, but she also refuses to accept that she ever speaks without filters, and now because of that, I think she's just a petty human being with a juvenile sensibility. I run a restaurant with a partner. We aren't exactly friends, and 3 days ago, he tells me that my wife called him to ask if the restaurant restaurant was doing fine, that she needed to cross-check that I was being true about the money we were making. Though it's hurtful as is that she doesn't trust me, she embarrassed me further by talking to him about my parents' debts that he had no idea about. My wife doesn't appreciate me helping out my parents with their debts because I already helped them out with their daily expenses. Her apprehensions make sense to me, but I've always been upfront with the money that I send them, and it is something that I can't not do when I am in a very comfortable position in my life. We both work, we are in our early 30s, and we don't have any kids or plan to have any for the next 5 years, and money hasn't been a problem for the 5 years since we've been married. From the conversation I had with my business partner, I felt that he left out something that my wife had said to him. My wife and I had a huge fight over this, and I again had the inkling that she was trying to ascertain what all my friends shared with me and stick to only talking about that. The next night, when she was asleep, I checked her call recordings. Recording calls come in handy in her line of work. She frequently works with local vendors who don't read or write. This is not something that I'm proud of, and I do regret this later on. While going on a montage about how bad my family is, she told my friend in this recording about my sister's extramarital affair before her husband passed away. My business partner was a close friend of my late brother-in-law, and her affair was something she only shared with us after he passed away. She's literally getting treated for depression because of the guilt. She also told him that my father uses adult diapers. She had also called him again in the morning, almost scalding him for telling me everything, and asking him if he told me about the things she said about my family and my sister's affair. I know I invited this horror on myself by choosing to listen to the things she didn't choose to say to me, but I practically hate her now. We only fought about the money I sent to my parents infrequently, and it never seemed like she had any problems with my sister. My sister has nothing to do with our daily lives, and my wife doesn't talk to her either. I hate her for not having any filters at all. Things have been snowballing with her open mouth, and it's getting to the point that it's mentally draining, having to worry about her blurting out something that she shouldn't, and embarrassing me or someone that I care about. Our relationship just doesn't make sense to me right now, and I brought this on myself by poking my nose into her phone. The original poster's wife absolutely sucks. I mean, she is absolutely a train wreck of a human being. The way she's acting is incredibly abusive. I don't care if people like to gossip. When it comes to loved ones like, I don't know, a spouse or something like that, family secrets need to stay family secrets. Otherwise, this is what you're gonna have. And personally, what she's doing isn't being blunt or not having a filter. What she's actually doing is being a horrible person. She simply doesn't trust you, and she can't be trusted with literally any information. In fact, she tried to flip all of this on you, and that's honestly not fair for you in the slightest. And I mean, honestly, who can seriously say that they have no filters, except for somebody who's a complete jerk? People use social filters just to be nice or cordial, and if you honestly can't be bothered to do that, then you are absolutely 100% a jerk. And in this situation, this original poster's wife absolutely fits this description. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description. And the next time you live stream, use the Cream of the Crop music. Search Cream of the Stream on Spotify or whatever platform you use for copyright-free music to use for your next stream.